Hello, summoners, and welcome to the one and only Risen Rampage Premade. This is week number 1, a fresh day, a fresh season, a fresh start, new faces, new teams, new players, and that is super exciting. I myself am Jake Kelton, joined by its Lemons on color casting. Lemons, are you excited about these teams? Because I really am.
Oh, you betcha. I'm just excited to get into some Risen action here this week and starting off with some very interesting teams with no real history behind either of them in this league so far. And this is going to be the first taste of Summoner's Rift in Risen for both of these teams. And I could not be more excited to be joined here with you as well today, getting some first time cast with Risen here. Now we are going through the picks and bans pretty quickly here for at least the first phase of bans. Here for OLLU, we do have Darius and Sivir taking out, as well as a third one to round it out in the Syndra. So some very high priority picks taken right off the bat. But then for IDNM, coming off is going to be that Scion, Jax, and we're waiting just a few seconds for that third ban to come through here now.
Yeah, a lot of top laners picked away. When you're looking at the champion pools between these top laners, you can see that Moore's scripter plays that Darius. He has a really good win rate on it, and Blader Yu has the Scion and the Jax as his top 2 win rate champions there. And so obviously there's a lot of priority in the top lane. It's one of those roles that can really carry a game if it gets ahead, both because it can split push or it can join for team fights depending on what champion you're playing and how hard you smash the lane. Quick note on that Syndra, most likely because the heavy buffs that just came through for her, I expect her to actually be a monster, not only in solo queue, but in these games. I wouldn't even be surprised if for the Risen season, Syndra was a bit more of a priority pick ban until she does get nerfed. Now, we're hot and heavy right into the rest of these picks as well. The Jarvan coming in for the jungle of OLLU, as well as that bottom lane immediately locked in by IDNM, and that is a heavy poke lane between the Caitlyn and Morgana.
Yeah, that's a beautiful lane. That's the best setup for a lane that you could honestly ask for right now in this day and age. And just kind of turning back towards these kind of win rates and different bans going through, I just wanted to highlight a little bit of information for both of these last bans in the phase 1 here. Syndra taken away from a Ward who has a 65% win rate on the champion. So there is definitely a reason he was taken off the board there. And then on the other side, you have the Anivia taken out, which is starting to gain a little bit of traction in the meta, but as well as Excalibur has a 61% win rate on that champion. So these bans definitely are targeted. And then moving towards these picks, OLLU does go ahead and finish out their bot lane as well by grabbing that Braum and the Ezreal.
Yeah, and so between the bottom lane of OLU being incredibly safe, as well as that heavy poke out of IDNM, I don't expect a ton of action in the bottom lane until those junglers start to gank. And the nice thing about the Sejuani and Jarvan, they're both very aggressive early game junglers in that they can gank pre-6, but then once they hit 6, then it really becomes a big deal, and they are going to be trying to get into these lanes and give as much pressure as they can to those laners. Now, this is really where the fun begins for us, because not only have we had a lot of top laners banned away, but it's priority here in the mid and top lane for both teams. So we're going to see a lot of mid lane bans, the Irelia, the Xerath, and now what else? We're going to get the Vladimir banned away by IDNM. We have one more ban left to go. And I'm still seeing probably the mid lane pinched away. There it is, that Zoe taken away.
Easily taken away as well. Yeah, they're definitely putting a huge pinch on that mid lane role. Like you said, I'm super excited that both of these teams prioritize that mid and the top lanes. And I'm really looking for some serious fireworks in both of those lanes today, and really seeing what these teams have been working on and what they're trying to bring to our league here. And right now, I mean, that Pantheon locked in just immediately brought up a huge flag. That's going to be insane, especially with the buffs that he's recently gotten. And I'm really excited to see him out on Summoner's Rift, played by some really good players as well.
Right, and that's the cool thing about Game 1, Week 1, fresh right off the bat. You really want to come out with a statement win. You want to make sure that not only do other teams have to kind of go, hey, we got to look at these teams and respect them, but you also are trying to let everyone else know, the team that you're playing against, hey, we are here for serious. We're coming in with the mindset to win. We have built a composition and players that are here and that work and synergize well. And so with a lot of priority being left left in these top and mid lanes, I'm hoping to see a lot of the teams working together around these solo lanes and not simply relying on the solo queue mentality of win lane, win game, as we do have that Shen and Orianna locked in from OLLU. So that is some huge wombo combo out of the Orianna and the Jarvan, plus Shen being able to split push and then join the team. What is the last pick mid lane for IDNM?
That's going to be a really hard one. I think it's going to have to go with an AP, and it's probably going to be a more tilt heavy. So it's going to be something that it has a little bit higher power ranking. And there you go. You got it. Akali straight off the bat. And just taking an overview of both of these teams, I mean, they both have some great synergies together. I personally think the Wombo combo from OLLU is going to be insane. I think that combination of the Shin with the Orianna on top of a Jarvan going in full steam, I think that is going to be one of the most beautiful play setups you can find in this game. We're going to have to look out for it. But on the other side, on IDNM, I mean, just the damage coming out from your composition is going to be so much fun. And I love to use the word fun because that's what we do when we try and play this game. Yeah, you want to win, but you also are trying to have a good time as well. And so seeing this composition with the Akali who can pop off with huge mechanical skills, the Pantheon with the timed uses of his passive and being able to use his ability to the most that you can, and just following it up with the tankiness Sejuani and then that bot lane who is so grounded. It's going to be a very, very contested game. I'm really excited to see where the pressure points are going to go early on.
Yeah, the big thing for me is that OLLU, I expect after those first turrets to drop for them to kind of collapse and group together, because again, you want to be using that Wombo combo. You have that split pushing Shen, try to keep his TP up as much as possible, and then he jumps in for those bigger team fights that they're going to want to initiate once Ezreal hits his 2 items. However, if you're looking at ID and M, you cannot count them out if 1 or 2 members seem to be caught by OLLU, and the reason why is that the collapse is absolutely insane. Akali is one of those champions that can be, a little bit sneaky with how fast she can actually rotate around the map. And then you have the Sejuani that can jump over walls, Pantheon leaping from across the map into the fray. And so you'll expect a high and fast collapsing from IDNM whenever a team fight breaks out. And then we're going to keep a close eye on these dragons, because if you've got a bunch of Infernals, IDNM want to stack those Infernals, get this Akali popping off on damage. Whereas for OLLU, an Ocean would be pretty nice to make sure that Ezreal and Orianna's mana is up, as well as that Shen split push is always topped off.
Exactly, and some great points there, as well as the fact that IDNM have so much CC to pair with the composition they've brought. That's just scary. When you give Akali even a second to do more damage to you, it can spell your doom. So those team fights are going to be key, and those collapses that you're talking about are going to be key as well. And so we'll have to see how the strategies come together as a team, and if they can hold off and get to that point where those collapses are going to be so devastating, because both teams do have a huge snowball potential. And it's really going to be about where the junglers, as we said earlier, and probably will say multiple times, it's going to be about where they want to put pressure. As we saw through the draft, we saw a huge priority on the top and mid lane. Now, I do have to say, for OLLU, the top lane is probably not going to be as big of a priority as it is for IDNM, but it can still be that priority. And we do have the mid lane, which I do feel like is going to be a center focus, at least, for both of these teams.
Well, it's center focus, especially for the Orianna. The Akali, it depends on how they want to play around it. And the reason why is because Akali is one of those champions that can hard farm with the 5-point strike and then look to roam. Maybe join forces with the Sejuani in a 3-man dive top lane, or maybe rotate to the bot lane, especially once Caitlyn picks up an Infinity Edge or at least one strong item. The ability for Akali to get in underneath the turret, kill somebody, then take that Shroud out is just disgusting. And there's a lot of LCS games that she's recently been popping off in, and I really want to see AWRD play this Akali to a T, get the pressure with the roams. And the one thing I wanted to mention briefly for IDNM is that I actually favor their team comp as a whole this game. And the reason why is because that Caitlyn and Morgana is so gosh darn scary if they ever land any CC. And you have a point and click Pantheon ultimate. You have a huge global slow as well as stun with the Sejuani. And then once you lock up one target, I don't care who it is, Akali's going to burst them down and kill them. So between that whole team with their CC, their ability to collapse, I feel like they can get that snowball rolling. And usually the team that has the lead is the team that can close it out.
Yeah, well, and especially when you put those huge snowball champions, as we were talking about, especially in that Akali. I mean, the second you get 1 or 2 kills on her, you just escalate to a menace. And moving over to OLLU, I do like the defensiveness and kind of the tankiness that they're bringing, but I do feel like they're lacking a little bit of damage. Now, that can all change in the span of a few minutes by getting some kills on Orianna or getting them on Ezreal, or even if Jarvan builds a little bit of damage. But I do have a sneaking suspicion that that is going to be what spells OLU's doom here in this game, is not being able to take down the members of IDNM and not being able to put out the damage that they are putting out themselves. And so that's what I really want to highlight on and kind of be careful of going to this game for OLU, is you really have to play the lanes perfectly. You cannot get behind, because you need to get into those team fight situations where your wombo combo is going to come together. But if you don't get there, if you're starting to bleed kills to Akali, if you're letting this bot lane get ahead of you, you're going to have so much trouble in that mid game. And so I really want to see this kind of aggressive stance at least, and maybe be able to get closer to that point in the game faster.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The onus is on them to find a way to be able to survive these lanes, survive the potential collapsing out of IDN, and make sure that Orianna and Ezreal really hit those 2 items before things start to get out of hand. And that's going to be heavily off of their jungler, Judge Gia, and we'll see what they can do. We're going to take a quick break before we actually get into game, make sure everything is set up on our end. So don't go anywhere, because this is game number 1, guys. This is the game you don't want to miss. If any of them you don't miss this one, because this is game 1. We'll be right back. Welcome into the game, ladies and gentlemen. As we said, it's Rampage Premade week number 1. OLLU taking on IDNM, and I'd really like to see if we have any spicy level 1 invades, but I expect that not to be the case, considering that it is game number 1. So
I'm just gonna throw it out there. You have a Braum, you invade. So we'll have to see if they want to go for it here, because that passive at this level 1 state is so deadly. We've seen it thousands of times, and you're probably gonna see it another 1,000 times. But that quick Morgana binding going out, able to kind of scout them out there, and we'll have to see what goes on here.
Oh, Shen hit with the immediate stun by the Pantheon, hopping on in, and now Blade Ryu is going to be on the wrong side of the map. The Pantheon, you can see positioning towards that bottom side, trying to force him to walk away towards the enemy turret. However, he's going to take the long walk around, stunned up once again, a little bit more damage. Oh, they get the extra stun as well. definitely sending him back. Unfortunately, not going to be able to burn any flashes. So nicely done from that Shen, holding the flash and just slow walking it.
Yeah, a little scary there for Blade. Cutting it a little close. We do have very interesting little mini invade here. Don't know if they'll actually commit to it, but we do have Judgia starting this red buff, a typical start with the leash from the bot lane. It is IDNM's side that who is starting a little bit differently now. They are going to go ahead and get that red buff for the Sejuani as well.
Yeah, and the invade was mostly for that vision. You can see some of the wards placed in the enemy team's jungle by IDNM. Just really wanted to keep vision on where that enemy jungler is going. You can see them already pinging out that Jarvan headed towards the enemy side blue buff. So they should know that it's going to be a vertical jungling day. They pinged it out very well. Good early game ward coverage. So the question is, now that Jarvan is kind of committed to this bottom side of the map, does he end up trying to go bottom side for a gank, or is it going to be Sejuani that says, you know what, I'm going to clear out top side? She's going ahead and grabbing her Krugs, which is so nice for early game farm, but can take a little bit to actually clear.
Yeah, and we do see Jarvan kind of positioning here. Might be able to help out Excalibur a little bit in the mid, but it's going to look like he's going to go towards his blue side jungle really quick. He did grab the red and the Sejuani's blue buff, but here we are in top lane. Nice little skirmish going on.
Yeah, just
damage.
Smacking each other. You can see the Pantheon started that refillable pot, so if he takes too much harassment, he is going to back and refill that right back up. Oh, actually, flashing on in. Nice taunt from the Shen. He's flashing everything. That takes down. It's first blood to Moore's Scripter. Maybe it's an accurate name there.
Yeah, and if you're trying to set a tone for the game, that is the tone. You take the first blood with the Pantheon. That's what you like to see on Summoner's Rift this early on in the game.
Who needs Dragon Synergy and TFT when you've got a Pantheon that takes first blood? It might be looking for a second blood as well. Dark Binding lands in the bottom lane under the Braum as well. So Phantom, there we go. I was trying to make sure I read that name correctly. Just taking some harassment, some pressure in that top side blue buff. I believe that Jarvan did actually secure his own blue. There's a couple pings going down as the Pantheon and Sejuani back away.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to go over a little bit of the keystones here. We don't see anything too crazy different. Ooh, nice binding landed there by Loco, though.
Oh.
In the trap, and that's what you got to be looking for every single time they land that binding.
Yeah, and the nice thing is they don't have to land the binding. If you miss it, you just back away and wait for the next opportunity for it to come back up. But if it lands, expect a lot of poke. Now, fortunately for the side of OLLU, they had it onto the Braum, who's just going to be burning all of those potions and biscuits to heal back up, so you can stick around in lane. But if that lands on Ezreal, he could be in a deep amount of trouble.
Exactly. And going back towards the keystones that I was trying to mention earlier, I do like to see the Conqueror on the Pantheon. Typically recently, we have been seeing a lot more of the Electrocute. You do see it here. Ooh, nice little gank coming in. Maybe able to do something. Nothing crazy. Judge Dia is going to walk away. But going back to that Conqueror, it does give you that extra healing, which is super nice on the Pantheon. And it gives you those trades that you're looking for, just like what we're seeing up here in the top lane right now. And then going towards this Akali, I like to see the fleet footwork. It's a little bit more sustained, a little bit less damage, but it lets you stay in lane a little bit longer, especially against an Orianna who has a shield that she can pop anytime.
Yeah, it's super annoying to deal with that Orianna shield. You basically have to burn through her mana before you can actually start chunking her real health, simply because she's just going to shield up every time. It's very scripted when that Akali moves forward, so then she knows to put the shield on her. Nice little burst there from AWRD. Quick note on the top lane, though, that Pantheon is not taking TP. He actually went the Ignite, which allowed him first blood. Braum might be in a little bit of trouble. Ignite comes down. Oh. There's that net! Beautifully positioned by the Caitlyn, and Mutsu is able to pick up that second kill for IDNM.
And bot lane for IDNM is putting on a clinic right now. They're laning so well. They do have about the same CS in that bot lane, but the way they're playing the lane is so aggressive and so good when you're that Morgana Caitlyn. And then to have your top lane responding with some leads himself is what you want for them, because you want to be able to set up anything else around the map, especially for Kural on that Sejuani.
Well, technically, every single lane is winning, which isn't actually all that surprising. We did talk about during picks and bans the fact that OLLU need to kind of survive the laning phase, wait for these bigger carries of the Orianna and Ezreal to pick up those first major items. You can see Ezreal starting that tier off, so probably going to be building into that Man Immune as one of his first items of the game. But they have to survive a lot longer. We're only about 6 minutes into the game. Surprised we really don't have that many plates down yet, though, with all this pressure.
Well, it's probably going to change pretty quickly because Mitra's on that Caitlyn went ahead and bought that BF sword, so he's going to have a lot more damage. And that aggressive style they were playing with earlier in the lane is going to keep on going, and it's going to get a lot worse for the side of the Ezreal Braum. But we'll have to see how that plays out here. Going to see that combo going down as well.
Ezreal gonna be jumping forward, that arcane shift, just trying to protect the Braum from taking too much harassment. Now the top lane, the Pantheon, he might actually find himself a second kill, but he's under the turret. Another turret shot will make it a 1-for-1 trade. I don't think any bounty went over, so just a nice kill back to Shen. But he has already burned that TP and still in a rough spot, dying under the turret.
Yeah, and that's another kill going to the Pantheon, who's going to be getting close to finishing his first lethality item there. And that's going to be really rough to deal with, especially with level 6s coming through now, and the Pantheon having the level 6 already. He's going to be able to go across the map and maybe even influence his mid lane a little bit, especially with the lead that he's developed in that top lane.
Yeah, and now there's that 6 onto the Akali as well. AWRG, we'll see what they can do if they want to try to find those roams. We're really waiting, though, on these junglers to hit 6, because that's when the fireworks truly can get started. Now, they might choose to play it a little bit slower, but if I'm the side of ID and M, I would just be pushing it as hard as I could. Safely, of course, but really trying to make these aggressive plays.
But, I mean, you see, the second they land one of these CCs, it's just doomed there, but Moore is in trouble here in the top lane.
So Jajia coming in with a gank. Nice little taunt there from the Shen. Here comes Sejuani trying to pair up with the Pantheon in time. She gets the Dwarf Rush, but it's not going to be enough. Now the Cataclysm comes down. Kurakami might be in a bit of trouble. Shen ultimate onto the J4 is stunned up. Akali is here, though.
Oh, the damage.
Kurakami on the Sejuani there. She finds an Orianna and goes down as AWRG gets the assassination onto the Jarvan, but hit up by that flash and taunt. Orianna Shockwave is going to miss. Blade Ryu still going forward aggressively, finally backs away in a total of, I believe, a 2-for-2.
Yeah, that was a little bit chaotic there for both sides, and unfortunately, AWRD just kind of leaves Kurakami there, but he does pick up that kill, get a little bit of gold. Pantheon ulting to the lane here.
He really wants this Shen. He's found that stun as well, and a nice spear will take him down. Revenge for the top laner.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate for Blade. You think you're finally getting ahead. You took a 1-for-1 under your tower, and then you overextend a little bit. The ulti comes through, kill goes over to Moors, and more gold over to that lethality Pantheon. And that's just a little bit scary. But from the side of OLLU, you're still doing all right. Your Ezreal is actually keeping up in farm with the Caitlyn, which does not happen very often. And that's something you've got to pride yourself on a little bit, and maybe transition your strategy more to that bot lane. But here we are in the mid.
Jajia just walking in, saying hi to Akali, takes that Shuriken flip out, says, you know what, I really don't want any of this. Does have Sejuani around the corner, but a lot of credit in the bottom lane has to be given over to Phantom on this Braum, simply because, well, in the early game, it looked pretty rough every time that, you know, Morgana was throwing out that black shield. He would throw up his Unbreakable, so he'd be hit by it and take some poke from Caitlyn. But he's gotten a bit more tanky at this point. He has that level 6, and he's absorbing it, which means Ezreal gets to free farm in the meantime. So he's just done a fantastic job making sure that HD can sit there and farm away. And in that mid lane, Excalibur with that red buff can now start to poke the Akali out of lane.
Exactly, and we do see some more trades coming in the top and the mid. And if you look at them, I mean, the CS leads are getting a little bit bigger in that mid and top lane. With the leads being grown, it's going to be harder to play around those lanes. So we might see a transition like we've seen for these last couple minutes, where Jajia just focuses on this bot lane and tries to get them out of this hole, because they're the closest to being a power point for their team.
All right, so 3 kills to 5 totals. The game stayed at the 10-minute mark. We still have a lot of plates up and available for either team to pick up, but most of the lanes have been shoved in past that river on the side of ID and M. So they've done a good job of keeping the pressure up. They're about to get a second plate in the bottom side, but they're pinging out this Mountain Drake, grabbing that before they go back to try to grab these plates. Make it a little bit easier when they're taking down these structures.
I was just about to say, just make it easy. A little icing on the cake there. Take the Mountain Drake. Get that early objective. Now, it does look like they want to try and contest this maybe. They are coming around the side, but I don't know if they're going to have enough to actually contest it, and the binding goes down.
Yeah, Morgana Dark Binding forces the Ezreal to take the Arcane Shift backwards. Mountain Drake's dropping low, under 1,400 health. Jajia goes in, trying to steal it away. Is he going to get stunned up? The Jarvan gets it! So that is the Mountain Drake over to OLLU. However, ID and M would strike back with kills. The Shen dying solo in the top lane. Now they've got the CC lock onto the Ezreal in the bottom lane as well. He takes the jump. Shockwave from Orianna. It's not even going to matter. Does get the kill onto the Sejuani in return, but nice ace in the hole from the Caitlyn to finish off that Ezreal.
Yeah, and it feels bad that you lose that much for it. You get the dragon, but you lose 3 deaths. And so you never want to have that odds, but you do get that dragon. It's going to help you further in the game, especially when contesting those objectives. And it might be a win. I mean, it depends on the next few minutes what happens, but that Mountain Drake can be very impactful coming up in the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, for the team that's trying to scale into late with this Ezreal and Orianna, getting the Mountain Drake is pretty crucial, so I definitely think there was some value in that. But great poke in the bottom lane. Caitlyn even taking a turret shot just to shove that Braum out, saying, look, I want these plates whether we have the Mountain Drake or not, and we are going to get these plates. Drop it down to 1 plate left, and they might be able to even clear this one up before the 14 minutes close.
Yeah, and that Unbreakable does nothing when you have such a damage lead on that Caitlyn. And just melting through the Braum's health is nuts. But she is beginning to gain more CS. As we were just talking about how well that the Ezreal was doing, being able to keep up with the Caitlyn in such an oppressive lane, all of a sudden there's a 20 CS difference. And that 20 CS difference is pretty much across the board.
Hurricane Flip and Shroud. AWRD gets out of that mid lane. Good defensiveness by this Akali. However, really hasn't been able to get around the map at all. This Orianna just continuing to shove her in. Well, I mean, most of the wave has been shoved by Akali, but it's not been shoved enough that she's been able to roam. So it has been just kind of sitting in that mid lane. Does have a almost 15 CS lead over this Orianna, which is nice, but really you want kills on the Akali.
Yeah, and when both mid laners are sitting at 2-2 or 2-0, it gets a little bit tricky there. Now we do have a nice combination here. Both junglers getting to the top lane about the same time. I don't think much is going to happen up here, though. They're probably just going to try and get this little plate here. But it's going to be a little bit trickier than just walking in there and hitting it once. But hey, there it goes. Minions do it for you. Get the free gold.
All right, with Akali hopping forward. She's got the 5-point strike onto Excalibur, speeding her way forward as well. Only drops Orianna down to about half. Caitlyn finally finishes off the bot lane turret. Plates about to drop in 20 seconds. No Rift Herald grabbed by either team just yet. But it's a 9-kill to 4-kill game. A 5,000 gold lead. IDNM in a good spot.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, that's a huge gold lead for this early in the game. We're just cresting 14 minutes, and turret plates have fallen now. So you've gotten all the gold you're going to get from that outlet, which for IDNM is actually a pretty good amount. And so going forward here, the style of play is going to change, and it's going to be about who can come together quicker and who's going to have that more lasting strategic impact in those team fights coming up.
That is so costly in the top lane. Moore's a scripter trying to make the flash stun play with the ignite to finish off Blade Ryu. Now under the turret, taking a couple of shots on the way out, but double summoner spells burn, just trying to find this kill onto the Shen in the mid lane, though. A nice 90 caliber net gets mid through 14 out of the ultimate from the Jarvan, but still picked up a 2-shot barrage from the Ezreal, and now Kurakami here with the KDPing in Akali, but she's in a little bit of a tight spot. Nice work on a dark binding onto the Jarvan, but he's tanking up a lot. Just yet, can he get out? Perfect execution from Akali, and 5-point strike takes him down. Looking for the Braum next. The Akali's on a rampage, but gets stunned up under the turret, flashes the wall, but still gets taken out by Ezreal. HD picking up 1 kill in return. It's a total of a 3-4-2, I believe it is. And somehow, after all of that chaos, OL, you actually win out the fight.
And that was just a roller coaster of emotions. You have Akali peeping in, and here we are. Moore's in the top, might be getting taken down.
Yeah, Shen coming back in, just saying hi and shoving that Pantheon out.
But when you see AWRD teleporting into the middle of the enemy team who have a Braum standing right there, you kind of feel a little bit scared for him. He comes in, survives, able to pick up the kill, but then the rest of the members for OLL are going to go ahead and clean up the rest of that fight and actually swing it towards their favor. Yeah, they are still in a 5k gold deficit, but that is something good that you can take away from that fight, that you were able to take some of those kills. You were able to position yourself well enough to take some gold back for yourself.
Next Drake is another Mountain Drake spawning right now, so we'll see if either team prioritize that vision around it. especially if IDNM really want to balance those up. But they really, while they've had a lot of edge when it comes to the CS, edge when it comes to roaming around the map and trying to make plays, some of these team fights have not actually gone their way, so they might need to be thinking a bit more carefully about when they're making these engages, and so they actually back away from this Braum. Is a great chunk from Excalibur, drops Morgana nearly to half.
Yeah, and that's some huge damage coming out there from Excalibur, and that 2-0-3 Orianna is shining through a little bit as a very nice focal point for that team. And just to kind of look at the item spikes here going across, I mean, you do have almost a Black Cleaver completed there for Pantheon and Moore's a scripter. That's going to increase his damage output by a lot. But on the other side, you have some armor coming in for Blade, and that's why we've been seeing these trades in that top lane go a little bit differently than we did in the very beginning. And we'll have to see if Moors can continue to kind of snowball this lead he's developed, or if he stagnates, as Pantheons typically do in that mid game.
Well, it all comes down to, especially as the mid and late game kind of get to this point, can you find the Orianna or Ezreal? Those are the damage dealers from OLU. If you cannot kill one of them, you're going to be in a spot of trouble. If you can pick one off, you probably win the team fight. If you pick both off, you definitely win the team fight. It's going to start the mountain, and Drake and Jarvan sealed away again. Noble Sejuani will match it up, and now Jarvan's in trouble. Hit by the Dark Landing. He should go down as they switch the fight over to the Braum, ulting the Pantheon away, but Kali is there. Perfect execution, takes out Orianna, and that's the carry you want. HC up next as he flashes away. Blade Ryu in way too deep, way too late to save the team. Two-shot barrage from Ezreal, not going to touch anyone as they head right back to the mid lane. All 5 members of IDNM still standing.
And such a different fight from the last one we just saw. This one, AWRD goes in, able to get the chain down and just dominate the backline, and wasn't able to get the Ezreal, but was able to get Excalibur on the Orianna. And like we were talking about at the very beginning, even in the draft, and even just now, if you focus on these 2 damage points that they brought to this team comp, you are going to be able to shut down the rest of their composition. And that's exactly what they did with that fight.
Well, and a part of that from the side of OLU was the fact that they were playing separated. The Jarvan went in alone into the Dragon Pit, didn't have Flash up and available to get out afterwards, and with that, he just died off to the side. Then the rest of the team from IDNM, who had already secured the Drake, was wrapping around the side to face off OLU that didn't have the Shen there. I think his ultimate may have either been on cooldown, or he just might have been delayed because of the length of time it can take him to ult in, and the Akali found the Orianna. The fight just fell apart from there. So if this side of IDNM can find those fights 1 or 2 more times, the game should be in their hands. But it's on to OLU. They really need to collapse, use the wombo combo of this Orianna, Jarvan, Braum to really find themselves some victories.
Yep, and I just have to say, in my solo queue games, when I see a 6-1 Akali, I'm just feeling bad at that point. And so they've really got to find a way to pick themselves up here and get back and shut down that Akali. We'll have to see what goes on here. Blade Rio looking in some trouble.
Yeah, he's looking in trouble, and he's looking dead. Nice ace in the hole from the Caitlyn to grab that kill as they finish him off with that. Kind of hard to kill steal with the ace in the hole because it takes so long, but successful there. And they are putting some pressure around this top side because the Baron is up in 16 minutes. Also, a quick view on that Sejuani sitting on that Rift Herald, so they can drop that in the mid lane, then rotate for a 20-minute Baron if they want to. And they're pinging out that second tier turret mid, so that might be what they're looking to do.
Well, and they've just got so many cards to play at this point. They can do whatever they want. They can split push. They have the Akali who has teleport coming up in that bot lane, and nobody can take her at this point unless maybe you go for a 2v1. Even at that point, it's scary to even go into that fight. And so really right now, like you see, they did use that Rift Herald mid. Moore's a scripter going on Excalibur up here.
Yeah, Scripter might be able to finish off Excalibur's Orianna. She flashes, she shockwaves, and it's too late. That is like the 3rd ultimate that Orianna has used, and it is completely whipped. Rift Herald setting up for a second charge. Shelly looking to drop that mid lane turret down to half as well, and now the Morgana going in with that ultimate, trying to lock up Blade, is successful with that. Gets the Braum as well, so he will try to do what he can with his ultimate, but it's not going to stop the rest of the members from coming in. 20 ultimate just can be used for zoning, I guess, as Scripter dives in deep, trying to get positioning for the rest of the team to take down inhibitor turret number 1. HD gonna fall next with a great shot from the Caitlyn, and they have themselves an open inhibitor in the mid lane. It cost them 3, but they got themselves the ace, and they're walking Shelly straight onto that first Nexus at the 21-minute mark.
This is insane. That's a great push after starting out so far out of the base, being able to take down a Nexus turret. They are feeling great at this point, and they're sitting at an 8K gold lead. You're just feeling great. And going back towards the rest of Summoner's Rift, you can choose what you want to do now. You can farm out the rest of their jungle. You can go back and buy and get a reset and put yourself back on the map with that item advantage. And so as OLLU, you just got to be careful at this point. Don't get caught out. Keep your vision up and be careful of where they are at in your jungle.
Yeah, there is a little tiny bit of a rough point for them in the fact that it was the mid lane inhibitor that they got, where it doesn't give them as much pressure among these neutral objectives like that Baron or the Drake, which we're far away from an Elder Drake, but if it delays to that point, getting, say, a top lane inhibitor gives you priority around that Elder Drake and vice versa for the Baron. But still having one inhibitor down at the 22-minute mark is so big because they basically, someone from OLU has to spend all of their resources to babysit that mid lane and make sure these super minions don't come running on in. Next Drake is an Ocean Drake up in a couple of minutes, and you can see with a lot of members of IDNM rotating around this bottom side, well, they actually have a 3 for 2, 3 in the top, 2 in the bottom. We'll see if they're trying to grab both neutral objectives at the same time.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's that Ocean Drake we were talking about earlier that would be so key. Now it's a little bit late for it, but it can still benefit you, and that's another objective you get to take down. Now you do have to be careful because they are pinging the Baron right now, and if you pull a move on trying to commit everyone bot for that dragon, they are just going to burn down, or they're just going to do it anyways.
Yeah, they glance around. You can see they burn a bunch of vision trying to make sure between these control wards and this trying to
they don't even know.
trinkets that they wanted to clear this area of vision. And OLU, not only do they not know the Baron is being taken, though they can probably guess. You can see the Ezreal True Shot Barrage going on by as they had that pinged out, but they couldn't even contest if they wanted to. At this point in the game, they're just too far behind. They're nearly 10,000 gold deficit. Blade Ryu caught out again and drops as he's trying to get some vision for his team. And now with the Baron, Akali split pushing the bottom side, 4 members top. They've got themselves in a really good spot.
Yeah, and if there was ever a snowball, this might be the biggest snowball ever. I don't know if Nunu has the right to that ability anymore because they're sitting at a 10K gold.
And it looks like we have a surrender as I guess OLU said, you know what, being 10,000 gold behind, we're just going to go ahead and surrender the game and end it here. The pain is too much for us to bear. Let's go ahead and chop off the limb and try again next game.
Yeah, maybe it's just a mental reset kind of thing. They know this game's lost. They want to get back into the war room, as would be called, and get together their strategies and come into the second game kicking and screaming, because that game was an unfortunate one. And I hope to see maybe a different composition, maybe a little bit of an earlier based composition for OLLU to really stick it to this series.
Well, yeah, at least having one of your carries be something that's more in the early based portion of the game. Now, it doesn't have to be super early like a Draven, but when you're looking at the Orianna, she finished off a Ludens in the 23 minutes of the game. You look at Ezreal, he got himself that mana mute, okay, but he didn't even have time to fully upgrade it. And then he got the Iceborne Gauntlet, so he was just getting past that 2-item point, but it still takes him a little bit to truly come online. And even then, it's not consistent damage. It's poke, it's harass, it's, you know, I'm just going to hit you a little bit here, hit you a little bit there. So having someone, maybe it is the top laner and you don't run such a hard tanky jungle. Maybe you put a Gragas in the jungle instead because he can actually bring a lot of AP burst damage to the team even early on into the game. Whatever it is, they need to bring something into the game so they have at least one heavy damage dealer at the beginning of the game rather than simply saying, you know what, we're just going to farm until 30 minutes and hopefully we don't die before then.
Exactly. And if you bring a different mindset like that to the game, I think you can, because there were some bright spots in that game from just the mechanical aspect itself. Now, you do look at the damage charts and it hurts your feelings a little bit more when you see a lethality Pantheon at 23 minutes with almost double the next highest person's damage on the enemy team. So that hurts a little bit, but we'll definitely see some change ups in the bans. I do think they're going to change a few of them at least to maybe even get that Akali out and possibly the Pantheon. I mean, it is asking a little much to change your entire ban list to take out these champions that just wrecked you. But at the same time, you have to kind of look at what you've gotten so far and take that knowledge and apply it best to the next game, because the next game is all or nothing. If you don't win, this series is over. You lose your first series of the split. So you've got to be careful how you're managing these mental states and how you're approaching this next game.
All right. Well, I think with that, is it time to let me double check this really quick. No, we're not supposed to do that yet. All right. Well, I think we're just going to go to break, and we'll be right back in a little bit for game number 2.
Good evening, Rampage Gaming, and welcome back to the second game of this first regular season week. The two teams, IDNM and OLLU, coming off that loss in game one. But to introduce the teams as we are into the pick ban for IDNM, we have Moors a scripter in the top lane, Kuro Kami 13 in the jungle, AWRD in mid, MH Truz 14 at ADC, and Loco Spoon at support.
And introducing our leader left us, feel so bad for them. We've got Blade Ryu in the top lane. We have Judge Gia in that jungle. We have Excalibur coming in the mid lane, and HD and Black Phantom rounding out that bot lane. And I am just so excited for this game in particular. First game, I love it. I love being part of Risen. I love being in Summoner's Rift, but this is the game that matters. This is where you see the stops pulled, all the week one strategies thrown onto the table, and we'll have to see what they come out with first. Now, going over these bans, we're going pretty quickly through them, but for IDNM, they go ahead and take out that Scion, the Jax, and then again taking out the Anivia, which has that huge win percentage there for Excalibur in the mid lane. But going over to OLLU, they go ahead and target ban that first game. First two bans are going to be that Akali and the Pantheon, which we just saw absolutely pop off in the last game, and then Darius rounding out that first phase of bans.
And we do see then on the first pick for IDNM, they do pick up that Caitlyn, which OLLU responds by picking a Morgana to kind of take away that really strong, really safe Caitlyn Morgana lane, and actually the Nami. So that means Morgana is going to be one of their solo laners, more than likely in the mid lane. Considering Morgana top, not really something that you ever see anywhere except in the deepest, darkest depths of bronze solo queue. And IDNM, in response, go ahead and pick their support, picking Lux, because, I mean, with OLLU locking two supports, who knows what could happen.
Well, and with OLU taking off that Morgana, they wanted to deny IDNM from the same combo they had last game that did so well for them. But in doing so, I feel like they've kind of hindered themselves, where they could have just banned maybe the Morgana instead of the Darius, which Darius is a great pick and all, and he can do really strong in the top lane. But when you have that combo that you know they're going for in the bot lane with that Caitlyn and Morgana, I think it might be good to just go ahead and ban it. But they do take it, and they have a weird composition starting out here. But going over IDNM's picks here for that first phase, like you said, the Lux coming out, probably support, could be mid. You never know, could have that weird Morgana Lux mid. Could be interesting. But then following it up with an Aurelia, which is most likely going to be that mid laner, and it's going to be that huge AD carry for that mid lane for them. And Lee Sin rounding out the first phase there for OLLU, which gives them that very strong early game jungler to be able to play off of.
Yeah, the problem that I'm seeing right now with OLLU as we, see this first round here, IDNM already kind of stylizing and dictating what they want their composition to do. They have a Caitlyn and Lux just kind of sitting back there. Caitlyn pumping out the DPS, Lux kind of looking for picks, looking for damage and sniping kills where necessary. This Irelia being this beast, in the mid lane. On the side of OLLU, however, they really don't have anything stylistically defined. Sure, you have a Morgana and you have an early game jungler, Lee Sin. The problem is that if this team doesn't get rolling in early game, they don't get rolling at all right now.
Exactly.
And this Nami as well. Nami is consistently and still is one of the weakest supports in team play, just due to her high mana costs and low payoff for their usage.
Well, exactly. And to be honest, it scares me for the side of OLU, because last game, what was the issue? The issue was that they went for a late game comp but got snowballed early. They lost heavily.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So then they go ahead and go with
was
another snowball style comp that we haven't really gotten the damage in there yet.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten the damage, and we have one pick left, and that's mid lane. I think that their only hope here is, their top lane. I think their only... Wait a minute, what are they doing? That's a Lee Sin in a solo lane with that Zac lock. And that means that they need an ADC here.
Bottom lane.
They need an ADC here, which means that they probably need to pick up something like the Kaisa. The Ezreal, not what they need here. They have very low damage on this team.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions about the draft. Can we call up draft? No. They would be
where's their
interesting,
coach?
though.
Get him in
'Cause-
here.
it's just
I got
very
something.
interesting to see the difference because we literally just sat through a game of 23 minutes long that looked a lot like this composition. You had 2 damage dealers, you had 3 support / tanks, and you didn't get anywhere with it. And then they just continue to do the same thing. Meanwhile, just like you were saying, IDNM leads the draft. They're the ones doing the parade. They're the ones at the front with the baton swinging it around because they've got everything they could ask for. You've got the Sejuani, you've got the Shin to round out the picks to go with these huge damage dealers that you have that you picked up in the very beginning. You've shown your cards the entire time and they still let you have it. So that's what scares me the most because IDNM just seems to have so much control right now.
I will also like to point out, reading the league chat, we did actually have an error in this draft on the side of OLLU. So there are up to 2 picks going to change. So we are being given a new pro draft to watch here. And we will have to see what happens up to this point. But yeah, I do agree. That is something that we do have to be, the side of ULLU, they have to be or OLLU, they have to be very aware of the fact that using these 2 picks that they can change, they need to get more damage. They don't have any, and not enough sustained damage to actually win any team fights, especially against what IDNM drafted.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see some changes here because there definitely are going to be some changes. Maybe we'll see some more damage focus there for OLU, but we'll have to see where they want to go with. Obviously, most of this is going to stay the same. I think it's just the very endings that might change.
It's the last 2 picks is what they say, up to 2 different picks. However, the bans all need to remain the same. The first round picks all need to remain the same, so we're just running through those at maximum velocity right now.
Ludicrous speed. If anybody gets
Ludicrous
that reference.
speed, go!
Hey, you never know walking into a crowd if you're going to have the Spaceballs people or if you're going to not have the Spaceballs people.
There's only one man who would dare to give me the raspberry.
Gotta love it. I wish I could make the sound effects, but I can't. So we're just not even.
I'm pretty sure we end up in trouble. Although we could give the blips.
Exactly, that's what I was talking about. Just start doing blips. But going into this game, I mean, just kind of backing out for a second, looking at the series as a whole, from what we've gotten up until now, it's a very, very tough read. I mean, we've had one game that started out very strong for both teams, where they were both kind of being even around the laning phases and all that kind of stuff. But then all of a sudden objectives start going through and it just gets crazy. So I'm really looking for this game to be a complete, pretty much fresh slate here and see what these teams want to bring out. But we do have some changes to the draft.
That's already an improvement off of the Zac. The Urgot going to be able to not necessarily beast mode the top lane, but will definitely be able to bring some DPS for this team. Definitely also bring some guaranteed kill securing to this squad on these very large tanky members or these very high health bars that they are going to have a problem dealing with otherwise. So certainly already an improvement here off their first pick, and now we'll have to see if they change it further or if they lock the Ezreal, because really I think they need a hyper carry here.
Yeah, I really do. I don't think Ezreal's gonna be the pick, but they go ahead and do it.
Go ahead and do it. So,
I mean, to be honest, he played pretty well on the Ezreal in the first game. He was staying up in farm with a Caitlyn Morgana bot lane, which is not something you see too often as an Ezreal. But does that transition into this game? Is he still gonna have that same impact with a separate laning partner? That's what I'm worried about, because he's not gonna have that huge damage coming out from him like we saw last game from the Caitlyn, and like we're most likely going to see this game from the Caitlyn. But if he can continue that good laning phase, he might be able to find a pick and might be able to find an advantage. So we'll have to see if that pick rings true for them here as that solid AD carry that they've chosen now for 2 games.
Yep, he might be able to, just looking at the team compositions now that we know what they are, as these guys run through their ban phase and run through the pick phase in the actual client, I can safely say, with a lot of certainty, OLLU only has one potential winning lane. One potential, and that's because top
That's
lane
a
is
big
a skill
potential.
matchup. Top
Yep.
lane is a skill matchup. Every other lane loses. Morgana loses to Irelia's pressure because Morgana, until later in the game, can't clear the minion wave fast enough. And this bot lane absolutely destroys Nami Ezreal because Nami is immobile and low range, whereas Lux and Caitlyn are high range.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
are designed to lock you down and go all in.
Well, and that's what is so curious to me. I do feel like the Morgana was a panic pick. They saw the Caitlyn go in first pick, and they were like, "Oh no, we got to get this off the board because we left it up in draft or in bans, and now they're just going to pick that same composition that destroyed us in the bot lane." But does that lend to your strategy though? Does that completely throw your train off the tracks? Because if you look at the rest of the team, the way that they set them up, there's really no particular order. I mean, you could have chosen the Ezreal at any time. Why was the Nami a priority? Nami wasn't going to be picked. She's not played by any of the people on these rosters. So,
well, to be honest, Black Phantom doesn't play any supports.
there you go, exactly. But it's just really interesting on their bans and their picks to see like the style that they went for, what their strategies were going into it, because it does seem a little hodgepodge. And then when you look over to the other side, you see a perfectly rounded team comp with multiple sources of damage. You've got a ton of CC. You got map mobility, and
yeah,
that's
my only
scary.
complaint about their team would be very little magic damage in comparison to their attack damage.
True. But even if you sprinkle in that little bit of AP, especially with a Lux, I mean,
Well,
towards that mid late game,
do they go Lux support or do they go Lux air quotes support?
I think it's always air quotes support. I don't think there's ever just a Lux support.
Not when I play it.
Who's gonna be playing Lux in the bot lane? Who's not a mid lane?
Not when I play it. When I play Lux support, it is strictly support.
Oh man, you might be one of the few. I like it. When are we doing
the brave, proud, the challengers.
I love it. But going into this, man, I really am excited to see how this early game is gonna go, because I feel like both junglers can have a huge impact, especially both being early game junglers. And we saw last game where they did have early impacts. And I want to see what their pathing is going to be like this time. If we're going to get that weird, wonky kind of try to do vertical jungling again like they did last time but didn't really succeed in it, or if we're just going to see more of a standard start. Because even though they did have the Braum last game, we didn't see any craziness in the beginning. We didn't see anything out of the ordinary. So I would like to see if maybe they change their mindset here going into the early game. But it could also just be a farm up until you get to a sustainable spot and you try to be an advantage somewhere on the map, especially with that Sejuani and Lee Sin.
Yeah, I expect this Lee Sin, based on the early game, based on what I know about the different champions, Lee Sin is more than likely going to be spending the majority of his time in mid lane, because that is the only lane that has a potential for an early gank with the Morgana lockdown. Urgot, if he all-ins the Shen, if Shen is pushed up to an unsafe location, there's potential for Lee Sin to come and get an early gank. But Urgot really doesn't get unlocked until level 9. He doesn't really become that good of a champion until then. And Ezreal Nami is just going to get hard shoved in all the time, and they can't actually help a Lee Sin that's looking to gank unless Lee Sin has 6.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most lopsided lane here in this game, is going to be that bot lane, because I do feel like mid lane is going to be, I mean, it's obviously a skill matchup and it's going to be very dependent on early game successes, but this bot lane has such a leaning towards style of Caitlyn and Lux are just going to smash you. They're going to be up in 20-30 farm, they're going to have a couple kills on you, and they're just going to get further and further ahead. So if you're the other side, you really need to be careful in that bot lane and maybe even put a little bit more focus down there. They tried to do that last game by bringing the jungle down there a little bit later in the laning phase and kind of just camping down there, trying to get a lead for them. It didn't work out. It actually ended up giving the other side even more of a lead. But maybe that changes this time. Maybe that changes with a Lee Sin. Maybe that mobility and that extra damage helps him out a little bit, because he didn't have that on the Jarvan last time as much early on. So I'm really excited to see what these junglers are going to do, because I do think they're going to be the biggest pivotal point in this game and where they want to focus.
Honestly, in this game, with a Shen on the side of the Caitlyn Lux, as Lee Sin, it would be an absolute mistake to try and save bot lane. Bot lane just needs to play back and safe for as long as humanly possible and not let their turret fall. And Lee Sin needs to get advantages shutting down this Shen and Irelia, because otherwise they lose the game off of being able to do nothing. Because that will be the situation if he just tries to gank bot over and over again and get them ahead, especially once Shen hits 6. At that point, Lee Sin will die if he ganks, and then the bot lane who tries to save him will die. And then it will be game over. Also, TP advantage to the side of IDNM. Or IDMN. Either way. They have a TP advantage, an extra TP, which means that they can make a party in any lane very quickly. But we will have to see as we get ready to load onto the Rift. Onto the Rift here for game number 2, IDNM on blue, and in a must-win scenario to keep this best-of-3 series going on the red side, OLLU.
Yeah, and mostly line of scrimmages being drawn across here. Judge Gia getting himself into a little bit of a predicament early on here.
Can he get out here? As we do see, all right, Urgot going to give him that jump. He's going to be safe, but definitely just a little bit too far up here at level 1 in the jungle.
Yeah, maybe just trying to feel out the style or stance that they're kind of trying to play with, if they're going to go for that aggressiveness or whatnot early on. But besides that, I don't think we should see any more craziness going on early on. I think it's really going to come between that 5 and 10 minute mark when we'll see the action begin to kind of roll, because I do think that's the moment that both junglers are going to be able to get into those ganks.
Absolutely here. Looking like the jungle start for both sides going to be the buff that they would prefer for the Lee Sin, which is the red buff, although not the standard jungle start for most, most team play. You start from bot side because it's a better leash, and that way your top laner can get to his wave on time and not be delayed at all. Otherwise, Sejuani doing the appropriate start team play wise, starting her red on her bot side, and as we start getting into the lanes here.
Yeah, and just kind of going across the keystones here, we don't see anything out of the ordinary. I gotta say the only out of the ordinary thing is this Morgana mid lane, but hey, you never know. Could go out and just do insanely well. So we'll have to see how that goes on in the early game, because I do feel like the CS is going to be an issue there. But as of right now, everybody's just getting the lane, kind of making sure that they can poke out a little bit, get some strategy going in the lane, and
wow, Morgana missing that key binding in mid there, taking a really bad trade with this Irelia. Irelia already asserting dominance on this lane.
Yeah, and to see this bot lane even pressed up a little bit means that they're pushing super hard. and could spell a little bit of trouble there, but some nice trading coming here in the top lane from
As
Blade.
we do see the Urgot trying to make a trade onto Shen. Shen able though to just use his W there and block all of that incoming damage from the Urgot W and passive. So overall, a fairly even trade, a slight advantage to the Urgot.
Well, and the beautiful thing about Urgot is even if you don't get very far ahead in the early game, you still come online late game. You can be that decimator of even the front line if you want to be. But the big ticket is that ultimate. I mean, the second you can pick somebody out from 1,000-yard range and execute them, that's a pretty sweet deal. So as soon as you can get to that point, get to that level 6, and have a little bit of damage on you, you can
As
really
we do have
some
another
damage.
trade going down in the top lane, Shen actually dashed and taunted onto the Urgot, getting a lot of damage onto him, dropping him to about a quarter health there. Urgot not able to trade back once again. Shen using that W to just block all of the incoming damage.
Yeah, and it feels really good for Morris up there, really playing the lane very well. And here, AWRD.
Yeah, we do see AWRD in the mid lane here, getting rooted up by the Morgana, a critical root as that will save his life here in the mid lane. Definitely pushing up too far, and still in the top lane as well. The Spirit's Refuge once again blocking that damage from the Urgot. Shen just chipping away at this Urgot's health bar.
Well, and just playing it very, very well as well. And oh my goodness, the damage on the Ezreal there from the bot lane. But
Yeah, just a
looking
binding and a Piltover Peacemaker,
that's all
man.
it takes.
That's
And
all it takes.
the cool thing is, we have a nice little game
Since
coming
here
in.
again, he's back again. He's doing that thing that I said he probably shouldn't do. Nami not being able to land the bubble. This play, they are still trying to force it. They are going to actually take the worst of that trade. Lee Sin losing about a third of his health. Ezreal and Nami losing just over that as the Caitlyn and Lux actually walk away, not burning a single summoner spell or any major cooldowns.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a little bit of miscommunication there.
I'm
Ooh,
gonna have to
Morris.
stop you there. Shen goes back on again. Once again, the Twilight's Refuge, making sure that the Spirit's Refuge, making sure he takes no follow-up damage from this Urgot. This Urgot is not able to play this lane. The Shen is just bullying him, playing really well around that banner.
Yeah, Morris is just playing this Shin very well, like you said, and just doing such a good job of playing aggressively. I mean, he's up 13 CS on the Urgot, which isn't typical. And just kind of looking across the board here, you do see some CS differences in that top and mid lane. But in the bot lane, you have the Ezreal winning that push. But here we are, another game.
We have Lee Sin jumping up into the top lane here. Shen going to be throwing down the Spirit's Refuge, trying to get down a trade. Lee Sin, he was able to connect on that first Q. This Shen is starting to drop very low. He's going to be trying to trade onto the Urgot. He's going to be flashing away. The Q is going to miss from the Lee Sin. Shen just trying to make it out, but it's not going to happen as Lee Sin claims first blood on Moore's Shen.
And just a little bit of overextension from Moores there. Was playing so well, but falls victim to the confidence that comes with playing a lane so well, and goes down for that first blood onto the Lee Sin there. Gonna be a lot of gold. Oh my goodness.
We do see a binding landing in the bot lane. Nami is going to be able to heal the Ezreal, keep him alive. Ezreal getting that WQ trade back. Overall, going to be an even trade, but definitely something that Ezreal needs to be watching, as both the heal and exhaust in his lane had to be burned to save his life.
Yeah, and the huge heal coming through from Nami as well, but that just shows the deadly capabilities of...
As Nami does land a bubble in the bot lane here, but the trade back damage from the Piltover Peacemaker going to roughly make the lane equivalent. Again, really not much going on in any gainful trades as Lee Sin is back top lane, but Shen able to just dash out and escape very easily. Really, Lee Sin came about 45 seconds too early there.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, you can see a huge difference in this bot lane. All of a sudden, the bot lane for IDNM have turned on an aggressive stance here and are starting to gain some CS lead here onto HD. They are going to have to go back and lose a little bit of that, but they are able to play the lane a little bit differently than they were, say, a couple minutes ago, where they were pushed under tower by an Ezreal Nami. So they are starting to get a little bit more damage there, and especially now with this back on the Caitlyn, is going to be able to buy most likely a BF sword, which
It's going to be a BF sword, refillable, maybe even boot.
all the fun accessories. You never know, but This
Could have
mid
chosen
lane.
silver refillable, which I might have done, but it is a fairly, the Nami is poking a lot.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
as the Aurelia going in here with the Sejuani, they're in the mid lane. The Sejuani does critically miss that second part of the W. Morgana still 2 autos away from the stun. It probably won't equate to much. As top lane, Urgot and Shen having another trade. They're having another wet noodle fight, but this wet noodle fight has knives.
Yeah, and it's looking
Oh,
some aggressiveness.
hold on. Here we go again in the top lane as Urgot does land the ult and will grind up that Shen. Shen going to be dropping to that execute Urgot ultimate.
And just like I was saying earlier, it doesn't matter what happens in the early game. You hit that level 6, you have a free win button just waiting for you to press it. And he goes through. Moore is playing that a little bit too aggressive, maybe not seeing that the ultimate was available for him, and goes down to the grind machine himself.
Yeah, I just don't think that Moores was counting on it. As we see again, mid lane, Irelia trying to land a meaningful trade on this Morgana. The Morgana spell shield going to keep him alive for now. However, very low on mana, has to respect him back.
Yep, and another gank coming down here in the bot lane.
As he tries once again, the binding going to miss. Nothing really going to come from it, minus Lee Sin. Once again, he's getting pulled into wasting his time. That's about all that gets gained here.
Yeah, and circling back to what I was starting to talk about earlier, so we've had all these crazy chaos sequences here. This mid lane is starting to look a little bit scary. I mean, you've got a 30 CS lead for the Aurelia, and if there's anybody in this game you don't want to have a lead, it's probably this Aurelia.
Oh, as we see bot lane again, the Nami wave going to be going down. Caitlyn going to be flashing away. Caitlyn trying to walk, dodge, sidestep, and move out of the way. Here, as the Caitlyn is dropping very low, uses the heal though, but the Ezreal ult going to be claiming the snipe as Sejuani and Irelia come in. Here they go, Irelia, Sejuani ult going to be missing. Irelia going onto the Ezreal here. The Ezreal dropping low. He's going to be taken down by the Irelia, being gifted that kill. Overall, the trade is 1-for-1. However, they do get the Irelia teleport and the Shen ult.
Yeah, and Shen doesn't have a TP back, so they really need to accomplish something with that TP used to get back. And it does look like they're going to transition into this dragon. Morgana does have sights on it.
Definitely the smart idea here. This Caitlyn's such a powerful sieging champion. If they can secure it for their team, it's going to help them immensely in late game when they're trying to take those towers with this Caitlyn, with this Lux, with this high range, high mobility team. And that will be picked up by the Sejuani.
Yep, and that's a ton of damage for objectives later on as well. We do see Blade getting a little bit of gold up there in the top lane, able to steal a little bit away while Shin is gone. Now Moors is heading back up to that top lane though, and is going to resume the laning phase there. AWRD getting hit by the binding. A little bit.
Not much damage coming from it.
Not a lot. It's there, but not a lot.
It's there. It's just that Morgana binding doesn't hurt right now because Morgana mid has to level W.
Exactly, and that's the painful reality right now for Excalibur, who was popping off on the Orianna last game towards that beginning of the game, but now is resigned to playing this Morgana, who's mostly a defensive lane and who hasn't really been able to do too much as of yet.
All right, we do see that the bot lane of IDNM is getting some meaningful poke down onto this bot lane of OLLU. However, we do see though that they are able to currently sustain it. We'll have to see if that continues as Nami's mana pool starts to run lower and lower.
Yeah, and I would like to see these junglers get a little bit more active so far. I mean, they've been a little bit active trying to get ganks in, but a lot of the ganks have not been successful. And I do feel like that's going to be where this game starts gathering momentum, is when those jungles get involved.
We do see though, my goodness, Israel, he is going to be traded down. He's going to be using the heal. He's going to be trying to stay alive. He will stay alive for now. The Nami wave is being burned, and in the top lane, Lee Sin is getting himself. He is found picked. It is 3v1, but Lee Sin using his flash will escape for now.
I cannot believe he just got out of that with his life. I mean, that was crazy. There was so much CC there that wasn't able to be landed. And as a judge, you gotta be feeling good, but walking back to lane, Excalibur just gonna be the troll that he is.
The cheeky stare.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is, right? It's a daily life.
As we do see, though, both junglers are about 2 feet apart from each other, and they don't see it.
And that's
this is why vision actually matters in these games, and why you should be warding your buffs. This Lee Sin has literally just walked in less than 3 seconds after Sejuani went out of sight from taking his red buff and found out that his red buff is gone. Sejuani, meanwhile, is setting up this gank mid lane. Morgana going to be okay for now. The spell immunity going to be allowing her to walk away from this gank. However, pressure is still in mid as the Lee Sin Q just goes wide.
That was so close to landing on him. But I was surprised at that Morgana damage. That W is starting to pump out some serious DPS.
Yep, absolutely, and it does. Top lane, another trade tried, but Spirit's Refuge going to be keeping Shen just healthy, just like the early laning phase. But yeah, the Morgana W, it's so interesting because as you drop lower in health, the percentage of damage increases. So it just starts to really hurt as your health bar starts to drop.
Yeah, exactly. And especially it being a semi-squishier person as the Aurelia, it does, your health isn't as large of a pool in necessarily.
Well, as we do see in the bot lane, going all in is that Caitlyn and that Lux, as the Nami wave going to be burned. The Lux ult was also burned. The Caitlyn actually really tried to get that kill on the Nami almost successfully, but Lee Sin and Sejuani are now hovering the bot side as they do see each other near the scuttle grab.
Yeah, and that's a ton of damage going through. That's almost 3 times now, I believe, that we've seen that same kind of trade go down where Caitlyn almost gets somebody, but then the Nami heals come through in the CC. But
we do see here in the top lane. Once again, Moors actually was starting to drop low, had to flash because he noticed that he was executable by
I'm surprised we didn't see the long-range ultimate come out from Blade.
Shen, he didn't know Shen still had dash. Irelia, though, going to be using the ult, going to be taking down Black Phantom here. Lisa trying to get himself out, but it's not going to happen. That's double kill to the Irelia. On the backside, though, Morgana starting to hit the Lux. The Lux dropping low. Will the Ignite kill her? I don't think so. The shield will be just enough for now. Excalibur trying to run out, but he can't use the Blast Cone because he's got the spell shield. But he will escape for now. However, it's 2 kills to the Irelia.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, unfortunately, item spikes coming through. That was that Trend Force item spike. You could see the damage he was doing to these low health targets, and unfortunately, the only tanky member on your team is going to be that Urgot, and Aurelia is going to go nowhere near that top lane. That's an island right now. So really, you're dealing with an Aurelia against 4 squishies, and it's going to get scarier as she gets more fed. But now with this Trend Force on her, that's why we saw so much damage coming in. That's why we saw those kills go over so quickly. And so knowing that, you're gonna
pick up that first turret bot lane. So some more. We were talking about the item spike of Irelia. This Caitlyn now is going to be able to back 1,700 gold. That's going to be the IE.
Oh yeah, and that's going to be a huge item spike coming through, especially because we saw that item spike be so impactful last game when she bought the IE and went up against the Ezreal. But it's going to be really, really tough for OLLU. Sorry, I'm so sorry, my voice right now. To get back into this, because right now they aren't that far behind, but they do need to find a way into this, at least being able to pick off some more kills and get a little bit more gold.
Yeah, the problem is that early game is starting to slip away, and they really weren't able to do much to get their early game champions ahead, which means that they're just going to start falling off little bit by little bit.
Yeah, and now we do see some focus going onto this Ocean Drake. Ulti's coming out.
It does walk back into the Sejuani ultimate, but the Nami wave going to be able to disengage. However, can they get out? Caitlyn ult going to be landing. Lee Sin going to be taking very low, but surviving for now. Important. Very important. However, the Ocean Drake with 5 members in the Ocean Drake pit, you have to assume, and it will go over to IDNM.
Yeah, and that's another huge bonus for them. I mean, you're rocking a Shen and a Sejuani. You want that sustain, and that's what you're going to get with that first Ocean Drake, as well as having the mana sustain for the Caitlyn, the Aurelia, and the Lux. It's almost a perfect marriage of the combination of dragons right now, because they have objective control. They have that sustain as well. And right now, Summoner's Rift is just giving all of its gifts over to IDNM.
Absolutely, as we do see IVNM, they're kind of resetting after that good play. The Caitlyn going mid, the Irelia splitting this bot lane with that down turret. As we do see in the top lane, though, Shen taunting the Urgot, getting finally the first favorable trade for himself in a while.
Yeah, and a lot of damage being put out as well. Right there in that short little engage. He still hasn't finished his first item yet, but is able to now if he goes back. Let's see if he'll be greedy and try to go for this turret, or if he's going to be able to get out of this
Oh
gank.
no, he's gonna run. He's got a Caitlyn and a Lux bearing down on him. Run, man, run. Lux ult going to be
Oh,
burned.
no.
Caitlyn just chasing and autoing, chasing and autoing, chasing and autoing. Urgot trying to run away, but the built over Peacemaker will seal his fate.
Isn't it beautiful when you see Caitlyn play like that? The absolute kite coming out, the little tiny movements to get the auto attacks off. Being an ADC player might make me a little biased, but I love to see that, especially executed so well on a tankier target like that as well.
And we do have Excalibur leaving the game.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Might have had some disconnection issues. We'll have to see how that goes there. But
There are no
moving
pause in this
forward,
league.
that's what I was just about to see, if maybe they're going to throw down a pause or if something's going on like that. But besides that, I mean, a lot of aggression coming out here for IDNM being in the enemy side jungle and really just kind of having their way with it right now. I am looking for OLLU to punish this and maybe be able to find some kind of gold here because they do have some power spikes coming through.
I don't think they can punish it. It's a group of 3. You've got your Sejuani. Your Sejuani has ult. You're all moving together. You have vision in and around you, and you know where most of the enemy team is. I don't think there would be any way to punish IBNM there.
I mean, the biggest thing would have to be trying to pick out the Lux or the Caitlyn. Unfortunately, they're getting so far ahead right now that they're able to kind of do what they want. I mean, like we were talking about, she has that IE power spike sitting at almost 40 or 30 CS over the Ezreal, and it's going to have a lot more damage right now, especially. Especially as well as with this tank in Sejuani, this early on, having that many items and having that much health, it's going to be so hard for OLU to do anything.
That headshot almost was down over half the health.
There
However,
goes.
the engage onto the Caitlyn. The Caitlyn is dropping low, trying to outrun the wave, and does manage to do it. The Ezreal is actually going to be the one who falls in that engage.
I can't believe Caitlyn just got out. That feels like you're solo.
And not only that,
Oh!
Caitlyn just took a kill. That's a snipe. Goodbye, Nami.
Isn't that the most gratifying thing when you play Caitlyn? Is you get out with no life whatsoever. You're like kind of sweating on your keyboard and your mouse, and then all of a sudden you see a target line up for an ultimate. And you're like, yes, this is my moment. You just tap the R button and watch. And that's what MH Truz just did, getting more gold for himself, getting a bigger lead, and finishing
that rapid fire.
That rapid fire, exactly.
Also, it is Lux air quotes support. The zone is.
Like I said, it's always there.
And the non-upgraded support item.
0-0-6, baby. You know you're going the distance with the AP there. But I do kind of want to circle back to these compositions. I mean, we are 20 minutes into the game. We've had the early game settled. We're in this mid-game style right now. And to be honest, on the side of OLU, I don't see a big power point coming through. I mean, you have the Urgot who's sitting at 2-1 with some good farm on him. But is that going to be enough to get you through the rest of this team, especially this Aurelia, especially this Caitlyn? That's what
maybe one, but not both.
Exactly. That's the hardest part about this situation right now, is you've got to find a way into the game because you're not done. You've got a chance to make this right.
Nami might be caught here as the Sejuani does get onto her. The spell immunity going to be
that's just begging.
That just sealed your fate, Nami. You're gone. Caitlyn gonna be picking that kill up.
I have to say, he did expect the black shield from the Morgana, so the trap didn't go through. That was nice, but at any point
the
you
burn
pop
of stopwatch was the worst idea possible there.
Exactly. You're still leaving yourself out there as bait. You have 4 members of the enemy team standing right around you.
Has Lux, Fat Fingers, Zanya's.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, all right? And again, just Summoner's Rift giving a golden feast to IDNM, giving them the Infernal Drake here, and they are having a smorgasbord of dragons right now.
What could you want more of? Damage? Okay.
Right, exactly. Now, what do you want? Movement speed? Okay, why not? We'll just give you a Cloud Drake.
Oh, they can't do that.
I don't even know if that's worth it.
Only 3 different kinds of elements can spawn in any given game.
Hey, I'm just thinking in the general scheme of things. League of Legends is giving out gifts. We can just make this one exception this time around.
Nope, they're getting another Infernal.
Hey, there you go. That might be better.
The Lux ult does come down, though. AWRD going to be grabbing that kill onto the Ezreal. The Ezreal playing frontline. Very big mistake. However, the shutdown going to be coming in for the Urgot on the Aurelia as the fight does start to erupt. Urgot getting into the fight. He does ult the Sejuani. Sejuani being pulled back. That's going to be ground up. That's a double kill going to the Urgot. 2 for 1 in favor of OLLU.
Yeah, and some gold going over to the Urgot. He might just be this carry potential just yet. Nice.
The Anami bubble landing. However, that is a massive stand united. However, the Shen kick. Oh no, he kicked him to safety. Shen, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was a little rough there. Judge Gia trying to make the big play, wasn't able to. They're gonna try and get this tower. I don't know if they have enough for it right now.
Trying to force it, but they don't have minions. The minions were dealt with appropriately by the Caitlyn and Lux.
And just kind of going back to that play, Judge Gia thinking he had the moves and just doesn't have the damage to take out the shit, unfortunately. And Moore is just kind of sitting there grinning, able to walk away with his life. But some good trades coming through for OLLU. I mean, you really saw a decent team fight right there, even though they are behind. You saw them come out on top, and so that gives you hope, and that gives you something to strive for, is that those perfect team fights that you're looking for, those engages with the Urgot, who's doing so much damage right now. You need more of that. You need to be able to catch out these carries, especially this Caitlyn, who does seem to be mispositioning every now and then. So if you can take advantage of those moments and push those moments, you do have a chance of getting fully back into this game and being able to contest these objectives.
Absolutely, there is that potential. However, we do have to also note in order for them to get back in this game, the frontline Ezreal can't exist again.
I hope I never see it exist, but hey, you never know. It could be a new play style coming out. But yeah, you definitely need to be getting more damage there. And he did finish that man immune, so he's starting to stack that up a little bit and get that AD damage onto his Qs. But he's still nowhere near what this Caitlyn is putting out right now, especially almost having finished the second
quarter of the Morgana health with 1 headshot.
Exactly, and now almost finishing that second Zeal item, it's just going to get worse. Those crits are going to be hurting even more. And
also,
so you've
that
got
static Shiv going to be increasing that push potential so
exactly.
heavily.
And that's the scary spot, because you've got no real comeback from that. If she's going to get stronger and stronger, you've got to find a way to shut her down.
As Caitlyn does siege and take the mid lane outer, that will mean that all outers fall, which is a very big key in competitive League of Legends, that you get all the outer turrets. It really opens up your map, allows you to rotate safer through your opponent's jungle, starts letting you advance that vision line and start setting up and controlling fully the Baron and Dragon pits, as we do see another wet noodle fight starting up top. However, the Caitlyn does join. Spirit's Refuge was saving the Shen. However, Urgot, he knows that he's probably dead. He's going to try and full trade. However, the Lux ult means that he will fall low enough that his ult will not be able to trigger in time to kill the Shen. And Shen walks away with his life.
Yeah, and I don't know why I'm just noticing this. I was looking at Morgana's build path here, and for someone who didn't go Glacial Augment, sure is going a Glacial Augment mid build. And so I'm a little bit questioning the Ruin styles they chose there, and seeing why not just go maybe more of an AP style build instead of that slow style. But hey, these late game team fights could mean the difference between getting the Caitlyn and not. So we'll have to see how that works out later on. I'm just a little confused on the thought process, I guess, going into the builds with the Keystones. Because you could get so much more out of it if you did have Glacial Augment. But obviously it's too far to change that. Oh my goodness.
That was almost 1/2 of Nami's
is just going off.
That is going to drop as the Sejuani ult lands. Nami dies. Proving why Nami is not really a great support in team play right now.
Oh no.
Really ever. It's way too range.
The crazy thing is if MH Truz kind of kept going, that was a double kill easy.
Oh, Shen trying to get that taunt on the Lee Sin. It does not connect.
Close. So close, but no cigar.
Nope, never cigars. Smoking is bad.
Infernal Drake coming up here. We'll have to see if they want to just turn and burn it real quick. Judge Gia is standing around, seeing if they might have an in to kind of steal it. But
Judge Gia is down levels. That is important. The Ezreal ult also being burned means that, that's going to be a really easy pickup by the Sejuani. That's double Infernal now for the side of IDNM.
Yeah, and that Aurelia is looking scarier and scarier, especially now having finished that Sterix cage. And really, first items across the board being finished, almost second items for IDNM. And still sitting around trying to complete some items there. Do have their first round of items for OLLU, but are lacking a little bit in that damage, especially on the Ezreal, who we want to see kind of pick up that damage a little bit more going in now at that 27-minute mark.
OLU, I thought they were about to do something really smart, but they didn't end up doing it. Which was, I thought, with them seeing all of IDNM back, that they were just going to immediately turn on Baron and try to burn it before they got back on the map. It would be a really risky and fairly desperation type of call, but they're almost to that point where desperation is kind of what they need.
That's what I was just about to say. I mean, at this point in League of Legends, I don't think anything is too desperate because you've got to find a way back into the game. And right now, there just doesn't seem to be an in because IDNM are playing so constructively and being able to kind of square themselves off to where they're not leaving themselves open to mistakes yet. That can change extremely quickly in League of Legends, but right now, at this state in the game, they really have the control and are driving this car.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see now that IDNM back on this map. They are controlling and setting up that all-important Baron vision, getting ready for that Baron dance, as the Morgana has to burn the stopwatch just to stay alive from the Luxul, but ultimately will walk away with her life.
And they are looking towards this Baron. I don't know if they're going to try and burn it or bait a fight, but right now they look to...
They have started it. The Caitlyn started autoing it, and they are...
That's a lot of damage going down.
Yeah, the Baron is down already about 25, 30%, and it just keeps dropping lower and lower and lower and lower. It's at a third health now. The Lee Sin, he really needs to start jumping this wall. He needs to try and steal it. He needs to hero play. Does he do it? He does! He steals the Baron! As the Urgot goes in, though, that's not what you want to do. It's a 5v1. Urgot jumps the wall. He dies. That is 2 for 1. Can they get everybody on the back half of this fight? The Ghost is going to be burned, trying to slow it down. The Luxul going to be landing onto 2. The Morgana, 1 auto. Can it happen? The Caitlyn is going to drop it. And that is 3 for 0. Although there is Baron picked up, it's only on your Ezreal and Nami. That's not what you want. All it can do is stall one lane because the Ezreal and Nami can't afford to split off from each other right now.
I feel like I'm getting deja vu from last game. You get the objective, but it doesn't matter. Your entire team almost falls, and they're able to keep doing what they were doing the whole time. And I just feel so bad for Judge Gia, who's just pulling out the stops, and here we are.
Yes, we do have AWRD. He jumps in, he kills Black Phantom before Black Phantom can even... Why would you use Redemption? You're as good as dead. Save it for the base defense. That was just a greedy and unnecessary and not smart use of Redemption here. As IDNM does pick up the inhibitor and decides to back off, start heading, splitting off to these side lanes, try to set up, get more objectives.
Yeah, and what's crazy is even with that Baron, you can't really do much with it when you don't own Summoner's Rift. And like you said, they're going to move on, get all this jungle farm up. They're going to have the split lanes as well and force OLLU to respond to everything happening across the map instead of being proactive with that Baron buff. Now, we do have Excalibur in this mid lane trying to get a little bit of a push going, at least for themselves, get rid of this super minion here that is coming down the mid lane, but is going to be a rough time there. And we see Ezreal just trying to farm up in those side lanes, trying to get some gold into his belt. He does have the Miramana finished, which is going to add so much more damage to him, but as well as being close to finishing his third item. And so that's going to be another really nice power spike for him.
Yeah, I do have to say the Caitlyn feels really good now, 1v1ing anybody on the team, because with that last back, did pick up the Mortal Reminder. Has a suspicion that the Urgot is there, but apparently is content to push up for now, as actually the Urgot walks away. Oh, Caitlyn going to check, sees the Urgot is going to be walking away, is going to get out because the Sejuani is there to cover any potential follow-up.
Just the standoff there is kind of like poker faces from both teams. Like, who's going to budge first? Who's going to go in? Is the Urgot going to come out of the bush? Is the Caitlyn going to get killed? What's going to happen? And eventually nothing really happens. Everybody just kind of goes back and farms a little bit. But IDNM still coming out on top with this further pressure into the enemy jungle. And
absolutely. Oh, and here's the Nami potentially caught here. The Sejuani looking, going to be ulting, the ult going to land onto this Nami. One headshot almost takes down the Nami. Nami falling anyway. The Lee Sin going to get stunned up, trying to flash into the
my
tower.
goodness.
That's not going to matter. The double kill going over to this Caitlyn.
Yeah, and Caitlyn is just
Pressure the
so strong. 4 items completed with a stopwatch still sitting in the inventory.
As we do have the Shen, he's 1v1ing the Morgana in the bot lane. That's kind of the lane that you wish that the Morgana could actually hold, try to wave clear, but it doesn't look like that's the case. The top lane inner going to be falling, and you have to assume that the top lane inhibitor turret will be falling soon after.
Yeah, and just the damage coming out from Caitlyn on these towers is so much. But then, like you were talking about, the Mortal Reminder just putting that extra cherry on top to the damage being put out, especially those headshots, still even chunking Urgot there. And right now, IDNM just playing all lanes.
Yeah, they are. They're split pushing the 2 lanes that aren't quote-unquote dead. Dead lane being an inhibitor falling. As we do have an engage coming in, the Sejuani ult, the Lux binding does land. The top lane turret falls. The top lane inhibitor will soon follow, as there is not a single member of OLLU that can currently respond, as they're all too low of health bar. Shen forcing Morgana to start having to back, as he looks to take that bottom inhibitor, or that bottom inner turret, excuse me.
Excalibur trying so hard to do some damage to him, but just isn't able to.
Not going to be able to, as the Morgana ult goes down, but it's not going to matter as Excalibur falls to the Caitlyn, and the Lee Sin falls to the binding. The headshot going to claim him. That's a double kill to the Caitlyn. This Caitlyn, unbelievable right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a dream game for any Caitlyn main. You're sitting at 11, 1, and 7, almost a full build, and they can't do anything against you. You've got a Shen and a Sejuani backing you up with the damage coming from a Lux as well. And at that point, you're just free to do whatever you want. You saw in that last fight, she was playing so aggressive. Look at this, just chasing them.
Walking up, autoing, just the Sejuani ult, the flash having to be burned from the Nami. I mean, at this point, the game is... It is over. Nexus hasn't fallen yet, but there is nothing that OLLU can do to stop this. This is 3 inhibitors down. This is 2 super minions per wave. They don't have Baron buff to help clear this anymore. The siege on the turrets as the Ezreal drops to the Sejuani. You have to assume, but the Caitlyn will actually be dropping to the turret. Actually, the Urgot is starting to turn this around here. Can he do it? He cannot. The double kill onto the Sejuani, but the Lux will be taking down the Urgot.
And the other Fed member comes alive.
Yeah, here we go. The Shen landing a nice double taunt here. That Nami dropping very low. The Lee Sin going to be trying to kick him into the base. Does manage to kill him, though, as the Nexus is the focus here. Well, actually, it's kills.
Go Loco!
Lux finishes the Nexus. That will be a 2-0 to IDN.
So, after that game, my first thought is I really, really hope, this is the first week, I really hope OLLU can use these 2 games and learn from them. Go into scrims tomorrow or whatever day you go back to practice and maybe play these compositions again. See if they work for you. See what works for you. And come next week with maybe a different strategy, something that works for your team specifically, not something you saw meta, not something you saw on pro, anything like that, something that works for your players. And I really hope to see that growth and that development, because I did think we saw some moments of brightness there for them. And if they can kind of pull themselves together and become a cohesive team, I do think that they can do really well.
Absolutely, and I do think that there is a chance for these guys to come back. I mean, as you said, it's week 1. This is just kind of showing these teams what they've gotten in for. This will hopefully show ILLU, yeah, what we thought we had, we don't actually have. We need to go back, we need to reset, we need to take a really good hard look at what we're doing, and we need to set ourselves up for success here so that we can come back next week and perform a whole lot better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just look at the damage charts. Caitlyn sitting at 37.5k. Next highest on the enemy team is going to be 18.7 from the Morgana. So that's a huge discrepancy in damage. And maybe next time just ban the Caitlyn, because that's 2 games in a row that this Caitlyn has just gone off. And it could also just be MH Trust, but it also could just be the champion and your play style against it. So there's a lot to learn from these games, but a lot of good things came out of this game as well, especially for IDNM, who just showed up wonderfully and dominated the first game of the week just to show us what they've got.
Absolutely, certainly a team to be watching as you move forward. And if you're watching, just don't let them have Caitlyn. See what happens.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think there's a few champions you can go ahead and say that for this series at least. But some fun
Definitely
games, man. I'm just happy to have this week started with Risen and excited to see where the season goes, see where these teams develops. I think that's one of the biggest things for me joining a league for a season is seeing the development because winning one game at the beginning of the season doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means that you have some skill, you have some depth at least, and you have some champion pool styles. But the biggest thing is if you can keep it going. Can you keep it going for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time? Can you keep this streak alive? And I'm really excited to see both of these teams strive for something higher in this league.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to see them try to do exactly as you said for the side of IBNM. To try and maintain this streak, we'll have to see how long it lasts.
Indeed, we will. Indeed, we will. Now, I think I don't know, it's really interesting going through kind of where we developed from this game. I mean, I do feel like both or that IDNM in both games kind of kept the same style. So I wonder going forward if they're going to kind of go with that more or where their style is going to lead towards. Now, going forward with this, which team at the end of the season totally is going to be higher in the rankings, you think?
Out of IBNM or I'd have to say it would be IBNM because honestly, I saw that OLLU, what they need right now is they need direction or they're not going to be going much higher. They need help in their draft and they need help understanding where their macro is because right now they were just getting completely outdrafted and out macroed. And if neither one of those can clean up, which is something that's hard to teach yourselves, if that doesn't get cleaned up, they're going to have a really hard time picking up a whole lot of wins against teams like IBNM that seem to have their macro at least mostly figured out.
Yeah, no, exactly. I definitely agree. But that's the beauty of League of Legends and the beauty of splits is you get to see development, you see evolution, and even subs. So you never know where it can go.
Yep, you never do. All right. With that, I believe that's going to conclude us, right? All righty. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for week 1, IBNM versus OLLU. And we will see you all here next week. Thank you very much. Have a good night.